Chapter 121, Spirit Ring Fusion, an unsuccessful fusion technique. After leaving the Royal Fighting Team's training grounds, Lin Yu went straight to the simulated cultivation field behind the Education Committee member building, an area reserved for Heaven Do-level teachers and Education Committee members. The place was enormous and usually empty. Because of Qian Renxue's arrangements, Lin Yu's cultivation sessions were generally scheduled for the evenings. When he wasn't cultivating, he trained in combat, a practice he preferred, learning by fighting and constantly looking for ways to improve himself. During their intimate time the night before, Lin Yu hadn't only admired Qian Renxue's beauty, he'd shamelessly asked her for a technique, spirit ring fusion. It was considered a minor secret among spirit masters, but for the spirit hall, with its ancient legacy, it was nothing exotic. When they parted in the early morning, Qian Renxue tossed him the thin secret manual as she dressed. After a careful read, Lin Yu, with his good memory, quickly formed a clear picture of spirit ring fusion. The technique wasn't singular. It had two main forms, determined by which spirit ring was chosen as the core. The first was the method Xiao Wu of the Blazing Academy used in the original timeline. Pick the oldest spirit ring as the guide, fixedly enhance that ring's power, and then apply that enhancement to oneself. It was effective. Xiao Wu's fourth spirit ability had indeed been greatly amplified. The second method, an alternative that hadn't appeared in the original timeline, likewise selected a spirit ring as the fixed core, but without any age requirement. The other spirit rings were integrated into that core. The crucial difference was that this method retained the spirit abilities of the integrated rings. After integration, those abilities underwent a spirit ability fusion, producing a new, more powerful spirit ability. It wasn't as potent as a full spirit fusion ability, but it still packed a punch, and the threshold to achieve spirit ability fusion was much lower. For Lin Yu, this second method was clearly more suitable. There were reasons people generally ignored this second method. Two major difficulties made it dangerous and hard to execute. The first was spirit power consumption. Both types of spirit ring fusion required massive spirit power. Lin Yu calculated that a successful fusion would demand nearly a spirit king's worth of spirit power for someone of his rank. Fortunately for him, recently, after refining the 10 heavenly stems and 5 elements essence, he had expanded his spirit power storage to 5 times that of a spirit master of the same rank. Performing the fusion would therefore use only about 1/5 of his total reserve. The spirit power problem, then, was solved. The other problem was control, managing the fusion of multiple spirit abilities, essentially a type of mental coordination similar to heart separation control. It was the mental technique for keeping several distinct spirit abilities active and coordinated without them conflicting, akin to the dual-wielding control seen in some martial novels. On Douluo Continent, this was exactly what the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School's heart separation control did. Don't be fooled into thinking it's worthless just because it was handed to Tang Chen so casually. For those with the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda spirit, it's a foundational secret. Lin Yu didn't know heart separation control, but his natural mental force was strong enough to control 5 spirit abilities simultaneously. That was the practical limit. Any more, and even he would struggle. Armed with that understanding, Lin Yu began. He placed his youngest, first spirit ring, the only one whose spirit ability manifested as a beam of light, in the primary position. This wasn't difficult. Under his strong mental control, it slid into place easily. Next, he integrated the second ring. After his spirit evolution, that ring had become wood attribute. According to mutual generation of the 5 elements, wood fuels fire. Under Lin Yu's control, the second ring merged into the first. As it did, the wood spirit power of the second ring melted away, consumed by the fire spirit power of the primary ring. The fire power of the first ring grew steadily stronger. Throughout, the 2 spirit abilities remained distinct under Lin Yu's direction. No uncontrolled fusion occurred. The process lasted about half an hour, and when it finished, Lin Yu secretly exhaled in relief. Encouraged, he moved quickly to integrate the third spirit ring. Following the mutual generation sequence, water generates wood. The third ring, after about another half hour, merged into the combination without major incident. With 3 rings integrated, Lin Yu felt confident he could finish the cycle. Metal generates water, earth generates metal, and finally, fire generates earth. Over the next few days, he worked, and despite minor snags, he skillfully completed the puzzle. Metal generates water and earth generates metal integrations. But he failed at the final step. Fire generates earth. The reason was simple and frustrating. The age of his first spirit ring was too low. Its fire element was too weak to consume and support the earth element during the last integration. It wasn't only the first ring. Any of the rings with ages below 10,000 years would be problematic. Without raising their age limits, it would be impossible to maintain balance through the full 5-element integration. Fortunately, Lin Yu had the wood spirit scroll. Solving the age limit issue was only a matter of time and effort. As he looked at the 4 black spirit rings appearing on the wood spirit scroll, a smile flashed across his face. The time has come. I wonder what spirit ability I'll gain this time. The Lantern Festival was only days away in Heaven Dew City. From the grand shops tied to the royal family to the small street vendors, exquisite floral lanterns were on display everywhere. On Douluo Continent, this festival marked the turn of spring to summer, and whenever it came, young men and women of marriageable age filled the streets looking for matches. Though the day hadn't yet arrived, the crowds of young people had already noticeably swollen, many of them students from the Spirit Master Academies. Lin Yu hurried through the city alone. Not long after, he left through the west gate and flew straight towards Sunset Forest. 2 hours later, he arrived at the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well. Around the well's spring water core, tall stalks of dragon blood rice swayed. Dragon blood rice matured only once every 300 years and ranked among heaven and earth treasures, yet even it felt low grade here. Pushing aside the stalks nearly as tall as himself, Lin Yu walked into the inner ring of the well. A host of rare treasures grew here: snow silkworms, cinnabar lotus, dragon ganoderma leaves, profound ice ginseng, and the like. Around them, several exceptional immortal herbs stood like attendants guarding a sovereign. Lin Yu had already chosen. He came before an 8-petaled immortal orchid, its 8 white petals like a refined blossom, and gently stroked its tender green leaves. "My 5th spirit ring will depend on you," he murmured. He summoned the wood spirit scroll, something he hadn't used in a long while. The pure white scroll unfurled, bathing the area in a soft emerald glow. A vibrant life force quietly spilled from it. Even the rare treasures in the well trembled as the life energy passed through. Under that power, almost everything around began to surge with growth, the dragon blood rice on the outer ring included. Amidst the rushing green, Lin Yu noticed something he hadn't before: a small pinkish-white flower tucked in a corner, rooted to a wujue stone. It was modest and easy to miss, but it emitted a faint golden light shield and a rich, sacred aura that resisted the wood spirit scroll's influence. Lin Yu recognized that sacred presence. He'd often cultivated alongside Qian Renxue and was familiar with its feel. It was almost impossible on Douluo Star, yet here it was. Seeing the wujue stone beneath the bloom, a memory flickered. This had to be the yearning heartbroken red, the #1 immortal herb. It was strange. The herb had never shown itself in all his previous searches of the well. Today it had only been forced out by the power of the wood spirit scroll. Lin Yu felt something off about this particular specimen, a subtle wrongness he couldn't name, but he had no time to investigate further. The wood spirit power settled into the 8-petaled immortal orchid. Under the scroll's influence, the orchid grew at an astonishing rate. New branches pushed out from its sides, 8 branches in all, so that with the original stem there were 9 in total. Buds swelled, and soon a delicate, elegant fragrance filled the well. Snow-white orchids opened, each calm and refined, their scent serene yet profound. As the 8 new orchids reached full bloom, the original plant withered away in an instant and collapsed into a tiny seed that fell to the ground. Even if one dug up the cluster now, that seed would lie dormant for centuries before sprouting another 8-petaled immortal orchid. The original had sacrificed itself to leave a legacy. Watching that life and death transformation, Lin Yu felt something within him shift. Like an epiphany, his understanding of life deepened. That insight flowed through him like a gentle breeze and cool dew, and in his sea of consciousness, the sapling of the tree of life began to grow rapidly, its base lignifying into true wood. It was a rare chance, precious and transformative. In the god realm, the goddess of life, lounging on a swing hung from the ancient tree of life, perceived the change through her life divinity. Her willow brows relaxed, and her emerald eyes shone with a clear, autumn-like smile. Her lips curved, amused and pleased. "You truly are my precious disciple. Keep going. Big sister in the god realm awaits you," she said softly. With the sapling's lignification complete, Lin Yu had finished the god of life's third test, tree transformation. The assessment announced itself. Life Divinity Third Test, Tree Transformation, completed. Reward, preliminary grasp and comprehension of life force. Wood Spirit Scroll Spirit Ring lifespan increased by 10,000 years. At the same time, the newly bloomed cluster gave Lin Yu its feedback, a black spirit ring estimated at no less than 50,000 years. With the divinity reward, it was elevated to a 60,000-year spirit ring. The rest of his spirit rings were boosted as well. The lowest, his first ring, now neared a 40,000-year lifespan. With these increases, Lin Yu felt his support system abilities improve across the board. After absorbing the fifth spirit ring, his spirit power leapt further. His spirit power reached level 54, exactly the standard for entering the intermediate Spirit King stage. In high spirits, Lin Yu harvested the entire cluster of 8 immortal orchids, carefully leaving the roots and the life seed behind, so that in a few hundred years there would be 2 orchids growing there again. Curious, he tested his second spirit's new ability, Orchid Jade Tree. A phantom jade tree sprang up around him, its surface carved with white jade orchids. Waves of shimmering white light spread out, and Lin Yu finally felt, deeply and truly, just how astonishing this ability was. Chapter 123, Wu Jue Escapes. The fifth spirit ability granted to Lin Yu by the 8-petaled immortal orchid was called Fragrant Orchid and Jade Tree. Within 100 steps, its scent lingered. Anyone standing inside could shed all impurities and completely eliminate chronic ailments. At first glance, it sounded like nothing more than a meridian cleanse, something a few heaven and earth treasures could accomplish. But the truth was deeper. Spirit masters, even those at realms like Qian or Tang Chen, accumulate hidden injuries and chronic problems over long years of cultivation. Their high level makes eliminating those issues without self-harm almost impossible. Fragrant Orchid and Jade Tree was different from the Wood Spirit Scroll's first 4 abilities. As long as Lin Yu's mental force and spirit power could sustain it, there was no inherent range limit, except that this ability was capped at 100 steps. That made it the first of his spirit abilities to have a concrete range limit. 1 step is about 1.4 meters. From that limit and from its effects, the ability's power was obvious. A spirit master's cultivation and lifespan are both constrained by their physical condition. Wrong cultivation methods or battles with spirit beasts leave long-term damage. Even low-level cultivators may not show it until they reach the Spirit Saint realm and higher. High-level masters often get stuck at bottlenecks for years because of chronic impairments. This single fifth ability could completely clear those previously unavoidable ailments. It was a support ability, not an offensive one, useful but frustrating. Lin Yu activated Fragrant Orchid and Jade Tree. The orchid's elegant scent spread through the ice and fire yin-yang well. He closed his eyes and meditated as the aroma filled the space. A quarter of an hour passed in a blink. When he opened his light red eyes, he felt unusually refreshed. Subtle obstructions in his spirit power and mental force had vanished. The minor hidden injuries that had been there, harmless until now, had dissipated. His spirit power ceiling seemed to have increased slightly, about 10% at most. 10% at his level, however, was nothing to dismiss. It could be the equivalent of half a Spirit King for someone else. Lin Yu, used to bigger surprises, barely reacted beyond a nod of satisfaction. Having obtained the 5th spirit ring for the Wood Spirit Scroll and collected the sublimated immortal orchid, Lin Yu turned to the Wujue stone with a small white flower growing on it. A cold light passed through his eyes as he picked up the stone. Long acquaintance with Qian Renxue had taught him some vital truths, especially the origin of the divine force, a power that could suppress all attributes on the Douluo Continent. Divine force came from divinity, and divinity was only achieved through power of faith. Those who reached godhood by power of faith condensed divine force and divine attributes. On the continent, only two beings had ever achieved that, the angel god and the sea god. Qian Renxue and the angel clan worshipped the angel god, who had achieved godhood long ago through power of faith. They retained the angel god's legacy of divine force. The sea god, who ruled the oceans west of the continent, had later unified the seas, and through the faith of myriad ocean creatures, finally achieved godhood by the same method. The sea god's island likewise contained the sea god's godly legacy. Only beings with deep knowledge and access to divine force could use it to place a restriction guarding a heaven and earth treasure, certainly beyond the skill of ordinary people. Not even Bo Saixi, and according to Lin Yu's understanding, not even Qian Douluo could do that. Given how the timeline had unfolded and the Asura god's words about being forced, Lin Yu was already almost certain where this power had come from. Yearning heartbroken red, a flower that can only be picked by pure love, no trace of impurities. Lin Yu sneered inwardly. In this world, except for newborns and very young beasts, no mind was that pure. Adult minds were too tangled to be judged that way. Even among the living, only a blank mind or the dead could be that spotless. So the claim that only someone with pure love could pluck the yearning heartbroken red had been a deception all along. With a divine force restriction in place, apart from the rabbit locked in the dungeon, no one would qualify to trigger the flower's recognition. The small white blossom on the Wujue stone was about to open. Despite its delicate look, Lin Yu wasn't willing to let it remain in the ice and fire yin-yang well. He walked to the shore of the hot spring without hesitation and tossed the Wujue stone, flower and all, into the scalding yang spring. Just before it hit the boiling water, the unassuming stone flashed with a dazzling golden radiance. Divine force suffused it, and the stone transformed into a streak of light that shot upward and vanished into the sky. Lin Yu watched it go, startled despite himself. The way it fled confirmed his suspicion. The object was important. Perhaps its true value wasn't the flower itself, but a hidden function he couldn't yet discern. There was nothing he could do about it now. He set the mystery aside. Having gained the fifth spirit ring, he could have tried to advance the spirit ring fusion, but that progress was limited by the spirit ring's age. Fusion's spirit abilities would have to wait. It was Lantern Festival, and Lin Yu decided to take the opportunity to bring Sister Shuer home first. Chapter 124, The Lantern Festival arrives, encountering a young bully. A few days passed in a flash. After spending every waking moment raising the Shadowbird spirit's first ring to the Millennium level inside the ice and fire yin-yang well, Lin Yu finally returned to the Lin family. He relaxed with his parents for a day, then, on the night of the Lantern Festival, went to the imperial city and walked into the Eastern Palace where Shui Qinghe lived with almost no opposition. Inside the bedchamber, Qian Renxue, masked as Shui Qinghe by a spirit bone, was carefully arranging a lantern patterned in gold. It looked noble and imposing, and by its design, it seemed the kind usually carried by men. While she was focused on the lantern, Lin Yu took advantage of their privacy and casually looped an arm around her waist. The moment his hand touched her, the woman in Shui Qinghe's guise stiffened. But as soon as she registered the familiar aura, she stamped down hard on Lin Yu's foot. Caught completely off guard, Lin Yu yelped, immediately let go of her waist and made a face. Sister Shuer, you're serious! Hey, brother Lin Yu, who says you can bully me and I can't bully you back? Qian Renxue kept Shui Qinghe's voice, but spoke it calmly, as if she hadn't just crushed him. Lin Yu knew he couldn't do much to her in the bedchamber, so he pasted on a smile. Brother Qinghe, Sister Shuer, why don't we go inside and talk? Though the spirit bone hid her face, Lin Yu could still feel the faint disdain in Qian Renxue's heart. She didn't refuse, however. After picking up a pair of scissors from the table and idly opening and closing them a few times, she followed him into the secret room. As soon as the door closed, she dispelled the disguise. The scissors clicked in her hand, snip, snip, an incessant sound that put Lin Yu slightly on edge. Qian Renxue changed into a golden gown. The high collar hid her swan-like neck, but the dress showed off a graceful figure. She glided up to Lin Yu and, a little coy, asked, "Well, Is your older sister pretty? Lin Yu let his gaze roam for an instant. Long, smooth legs, a supple waist, generous curves, a face that seemed carved from jade. He nodded. How could she not be beautiful? Overlook the Qian family's natural elegance, and even compared to Bibi Dong, one of the continent's most renowned beauties, Qian Renxue had inherited every advantage. At 18, she had bloomed into a woman capable of stopping hearts. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call her one of the most breathtaking beauties in the world. He took her hand, squeezed it once, and sighed. Sister Xue, I regret it. Qian Renxue cocked her head in confusion, lips pursed. Regret what? Since you're so beautiful, I'll easily attract jealousy if I take you out. Her eyes widened in mock shock. Then she laughed and pinched his cheek. See, little brother Yu, you should have known better. You teased your older sister just now. Be careful, one day I might abandon you. Before she could finish, Lin Yu sealed her cherry lips with his. They kissed long and deep. Qian Renxue, who had only stood a little taller than him, went suddenly limp in his arms, like poured clay, unable to move. After a while, he let her go, reluctantly, and warned in a low voice, Sister Xue, don't say things like that again. If you dare to abandon me. Nestled in his arms, Qian Renxue blinked her bright golden eyes and asked softly, Then what? Tell me. Lin Yu hesitated, leaned close and breathed warmly against her ear. Then I'll claim you, make you mine. He was easygoing in public and could appear slightly soft, letting Qian Renshue's antics slide, but he was also someone who would be dominant if pushed. Usually both of them yielded to keep the peace. Still, Lin Yu would use any means to keep her by his side if she ever left. Qian Renxue, who would tuck away her angel wings for him, was no different. Hearing his words, she stroked his cheek with a jade-like hand and murmured, Very good. Little brother Yu has truly grown up. I'll be honest, too. If you ever think of leaving me, I'll do the same. I'll claim your body first. They spent the better part of the day in that secret room, wrapped in one another. It wasn't until the moon stood high and the lanes of Heavenly Dew City filled with strolling couples that they slipped out of the Eastern Palace with 2 lanterns and wandered down the main street. Shopping seemed to be a natural talent for girls, and Qian Renxue was no exception. Veiled in white, she led Lin Yu from stall to stall, and the hours slipped by. Even Lin Yu, a spirit king, felt his stamina fraying. He wasn't tired yet, but he worried he couldn't keep up if they kept going. While he waited outside a shop, a black figure shot out of the doorway. Lin Yu turned and saw Qian Renxue beside him, her veil lifted and her eyes cold with fury. Sensing something was wrong, he folded his arms around her and murmured, Sister Xue, are you all right? She nodded, forcing herself to calm down, and replied in a level voice, I'm fine. I was just disgusted by a pest. From inside the shop, a voice rang out, brimming with mock innocence and exaggerated affection. Young miss, I truly love you. How can you call me a pest? Guess who it is? A burly young man with bronze skin and a full 2 meters of height strode toward them. Despite his size, his face was still boyish, about Lin Yu's age. On his fitted shirt was a distinct, delicate footprint, the mark left by Qian Renshue's kick earlier. He had confessed to Qian Renxue and been rejected. He felt wronged, and he never expected that his words would draw outright killing intent from someone nearby. Lin Yu usually bullied people with his wits, but as a man, he couldn't stomach such a provocation. Qian Renxue, quick and precise, pinched his arm hard. The one sharp pinch was all it took. Lin Yu steadied himself. He didn't unleash everything, but he stabilized the pressure of his externalized spirit power to the level of a rank 47 high-level spirit ancestor. Even though he concealed much of his true strength, the aura was terrifying. In a place like Heaven Dew City, the imperial capital, there were plenty of spirit masters who could judge someone's rank from the pressure they gave off. The burly youth who had just been acting so love-struck went pale the instant he felt that pressure. It was far beyond his own. How can this be? At your age, how are you so strong? He muttered, stunned. He couldn't make out the exact level Lin Yu showed, but the oppressive aura told him everything. This kid was on another tier. Tai Long, heir of the Strength clan, was no weakling. His family reputation preceded him, so to see someone his age so much stronger was humiliating. Suppressing the pressure as best he could, Tai Long released his spirit, the great ape. The amplification made the 2-meter youth stretch another segment taller. A light fuzz appeared over his skin and his posture turned ape-like. If not for the crowd, he would have looked exactly like a reborn Tarzan. 2 yellow spirit rings spun around him, and a faint glow brought out his beastly appearance. "This is the great ape. He's from the Strength clan?" someone whispered. "To be ranked 29 so young, not weak at all. A clan genius," another guessed. "What a pity. They went and provoked them. The Strength clan is hard to deal with." "Shh, don't say that so loud. You want the Strength clan to hear?" The Strength clan had split from the Clear Sky sect years ago, and though their casualty count hadn't been huge, they'd carved out a niche in Heaven Dew City. Titan, the clan chief, had earned the nickname God of Strength for his iron will and utter obstinacy. The clan wasn't large, but with Titan setting the standard, they'd become notorious. Excellent for forging, but notoriously stubborn in business. Many nobles and spirit masters disliked dealing with them, so the clan's smithing skills were mostly used for plow tools in the outlying villages. Tai Long heard the murmurs and felt both shame and anger. He didn't want to admit the truth of those remarks, but it stung. For a moment he lost focus. Then his attention snapped back to Lin Yu with fresh hostility, though his aura was clearly outmatched. "Hey, kid," he said, trying to sound bold despite the pressure. I really like the girl next to you." Before he could finish, his vision blurred. Lin Yu moved like a shadow and materialized before him, a cold expression on his face. He smashed a punch toward Tai Long's head. The blow rang loudly. It was heavy, undeniable. Even with the great ape spirit, Tai Long was hurled 4 or 5 meters away. Onlookers ducked back, their stools rattling. Lin Yu seized the Qingxuang sword in his hand and without hesitation brought it down in a thrust toward Tai Long's head. The crowd's expressions shifted into panic. Blood would follow any moment. Only a handful of spirit masters remained intrigued, watching how this would play out. At that instant, a white-clad figure flashed in front of the descending blade like a wraith, using deep spirit power to stop it. At such a young age, to be so vicious, this really shouldn't be, came a reprimand. The newcomer was an old man with a thin face in white robes. 8 spirit rings gleamed around him, the cultivation of a spirit Douluo. Lin Yu's face tightened. A spirit Douluo's intervention changed the stakes, but he wasn't shaken. Ghost Leopard stood ready with him, and Qian Renxue had Serpent Dragon and Sishui nearby. The real problem was the place, Heaven Dew City, where Ghost Leopard and the others should avoid drawing attention. What intrigued Lin Yu was the elder's restraint. He hadn't charged in wildly after shielding Tai Long, which made Lin Yu consider who this white-robed elder might be. He quickly ruled out Tai Tan or Niu Gao. Yang Wudi felt unlikely to show up here. Only one sensible candidate remained, Bai He, the Speed Clan's chief, whose needle-tailed swift spirit was famed more for mobility than raw offense. Before he could be certain, a bell-like voice called from a distance, aged but loud, "Old White Bird, save my grandson." A short, grizzled man with a face similar to Tai Long's strode up, Titan in person, the so-called God of Strength. Tai Long, having been nearly killed by Lin Yu's blade, abandoned all pride and burst into tears. "Grandpa, you're finally here. Someone tried to kill me. If it weren't for Grandpa Bai, I'd be gone." Tai Long's sobbing earned him a stern rebuke from Titan. After scolding his grandson, Titan fixed an unfriendly, condemning stare on Lin Yu and Qian Renxue. Chapter 126, directly confronting Titan, the dreaded Lin Zhan. As one of the few veteran Spirit Douluo powerhouses in Heaven Dew City, and a single-attribute strength-type spirit master, Titan made an unprecedented impression on Lin Yu. His bell-like eyes scanned Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, and he said arrogantly, "Humph, daring to bully my grandson. Boy, are you tired of living?" "Heh, tired of living? Old man, if you want trouble, come get it." Lin Yu snapped back. Because of what had happened with Tai Long, bile and anger rose hot in him. He couldn't help himself. Titan froze. He hadn't expected a brat the same age as his grandson to dare speak to him that way. The old man's temper flared. He released his spirit Douluo-level pressure in a surge, and the nearest victim was his own grandson, Tai Long. The boy crumpled to his knees with a thud. Lin Yu responded in kind. He released his spirit, a 5-colored radiance, like a phoenix yet different, 5-hued feathers shimmering as a majestic, almost divine bird phantom, rose up behind him. Tai Long, who had just stood back up under Tai Tan's oppression, suddenly went pale as if struck. "What spirit is that? Formidable. Even the blue lightning tyrant dragon isn't this strong," Tai Tan muttered, irritation giving way to a sliver of clarity. A seasoned fighter at heart, he recognized talent when he saw it. A youngster who could rise to high-level spirit ancestor at such a young age and withstand spirit Douluo pressure was not to be dismissed. His wrath cooled into calculation. "Boy," he said, his tone softening, "give the girl beside you to my grandson and join my strength clan. I can let this slide." Before Lin Yu could answer, Bai He, who'd been silent at the edge, interjected. "Old orangutan, wait, you can take the girl, but what about the boy? I want him." Their 4 single-attribute families had long been entwined. Tai Tan knew Bai He's nature. He also understood the significance of Lin Yu's spirit display. He and Bai He began discussing the youth and the veiled girl as if dividing spoils. Qian Renxue's temper snapped. Treated like property, her fury flared. She tightened her grip on the hidden blade at her waist and intended, in that instant, to make sure neither old man left whole. Lin Yu read her rage and was ready to unleash his ghost leopard spirit on the elders as well. But then a voice they both knew cut through the tension and the killing intent evaporated. "Humph! You old orangutan, instead of hoarding bananas in your den, you dare come here and bully my son and daughter-in-law. Today I, the Marquise, will see you taste the jail food of Heaven Dose City." Riding a 100-year cultivated green-scaled warhorse and clad in cyan armor etched with intricate bird motifs, Lin Zhan, the man in charge of maintaining order during the Lantern Festival, thundered up with a squad of light cavalry. Titan's expression changed at once. "So he's your son," Titan said, a trace of dread flashing in his bell-like eyes. Baihe's hands tightened until the knuckles cracked. Lin Zhan laughed when he saw Baihe staring him down. "Oh, old white bird, you're here too. Planning to eat me, are you?" The barbed tone left no doubt that Lin Zhan and Bai He were enemies. Titan understood more than anyone the history between these old men. Their feud wasn't mere dislike, it was the kind where one might need to die for the other to live. Surrounded now by Lin Zhan's soldiers, the pressure around Titan eased. He had little pride left to challenge the commander. Lin Zhan's speeds were 3 points higher than Baihe's, and his offensive power was terrifying. That was why Titan had not answered when Baihe had earlier called him old orangutan. He was not confident he could take on Lin Zhan. He let the spirit Douluo pressure fall away, shot Baihe a cold look, and addressed Lin Zhan in stiff civility. "Surname Lin, I'll give you some face today. Take your boy home and teach him some discipline, or I'll do it personally." Lin Zhan yawned up in the saddle unconcerned. "Sigh! It's getting late. Old orangutan, go home and eat your bananas." He was tempted to mock them further, but memories of past shamelessness made him stop. With a final glare, the Strength Clan elders withdrew with their people. Once they were gone, Lin Zhan rode over, dismounted, and demanded an explanation, then launched into a scolding. "Tell me, why didn't you go straight home? Why wander around Heaven Dose City? If I hadn't arrived in time, you two would have been in real trouble. That old snake is vicious." Qian Renxue, who had stood quietly through it all, let out an amused little laugh. It was quickly muffled when Lin Yu, ever quick, shoved her forward. "Dad, don't blame me. Wandering around the city was Xue's idea." At that, Lin Zhan's face fell. Years ago, he'd seen Qian Renxue unmasked. He knew who she was, the little princess of Spirit Hall. He also knew the nature of the relationship between his son and this dignified girl. He wasn't blind, and he wasn't the sort to reprimand a prospective daughter-in-law before she was officially part of the family. So he fell silent. Qian Renxue noticed the pause and understood what had just happened. She'd been used as Lin Yu's shield. Aware and not without spirit, she pinched his waist in a way that made him forget himself for a long moment. They rode on in that uneasy intimacy. By the time they reached the Lin family manor, Qian Renxue released her hold and, after stepping down from the carriage, took Lin Yu's arm and leaned against him. Her nerves still fluttered from childhood training and the public display. He slipped an arm around her waist, inhaled the faint scent of her hair, and murmured, "Relax, Xue. My mother is gentle." She nodded, trying to calm herself. They crossed the Lin family's broad front yard and reached the residence shared by Lin Zhan, Lin Yu, and Lin Yu's mother. There, Yu Ru waited for them, graceful and composed in a water blue gown, every inch the gentle, beautiful matron. Chapter 127, Bringing the Clan Down by Himself. When Lin Yu stepped inside, he found his mother, Yu Ru, waiting anxiously. He scratched the back of his head awkwardly. He had planned to bring Qian Renxue straight to her, but his delay in Heaven Do City had taken longer than he expected. He felt a little guilty. "Mom, I—" Before he could finish, Yu Ru moved forward and gently took Qian Renxue's small jade-white hands. She looked at the girl with obvious surprise. "Little one, where are you from? How old are you? How did you meet Yuer, this naughty boy who never stays at home?" Yu Ru's sudden warmth overwhelmed Qian Renxue. A blush spread across her fair cheeks and she murmured, almost inaudibly, "Greetings, Auntie. My name is Qian Renxue. I'm from Spirit City. I'm a bit older than Xiao Wu, and I've known him for a while now." It was Qian Renxue's first time meeting Lin Yu's mother, and she was nervous. She didn't know how to address her, so after a moment's hesitation, she settled on Auntie. Yu Ru, having been married into Heaven Do City society for years, understood the delicate awkwardness between a woman and her future in-laws. Though Qian Renshue's face was veiled, Yu Ru had long mixed with the city's noblewomen. Her eye for beauty might not be razor-sharp, but it wasn't easily fooled. From the moth-like delicacy of Qian Renshue's brows and the autumn pool calm of her eyes, Yu Ru judged her to be a rare beauty and felt quietly pleased. She wondered how her son had been so lucky to find such a girl. At the same time, hearing that Qian Renxue was from Spirit City made her curious. "Since you call me Auntie, may I call you Shuer?" Yu Ru asked. Those two syllables, Shuer, pulled at something in Qian Renxue. Apart from her grandfathers, only Lin Yu had ever used that name for her. When Yu Ru said it naturally, Qian Renshue's thoughts flickered to that woman, and for a moment she felt a stab of longing. She lowered her eyes, a little shy, and nodded. "You may, Auntie." Yu Ru smiled. Years in Heaven Do City had taught her to read faces. She'd noticed Qian Renshue's fleeting reactions. It was their first meeting, so she didn't press for details. Lin Yu, standing nearby, saw Qian Renshue's expression and understood, too, some things couldn't be hurried. He let his mother steer the conversation away from background questions, and instead the two women chatted about life in the city. Fate, perhaps, had a hand in it. The pair, meeting for the first time, found themselves talking late into the night. Only when Yu Ru began to yawn did she tell Lin Yu to show Qian Renxue somewhere for the night. Lin Yu grinned inwardly. She told me to take Shuer to rest, he thought, but she never said where. It was Qian Renshue's first time at the Lin estate, and she wasn't familiar with its layout. Under Lin Yu's persistent coaxing, some might say trickery, she unwittingly found herself led to one of his smaller courtyards. By the time she realized it, it was too late. Having spent the evening with him, Qian Renshue's defenses had softened. Lin Yu's low, intimate words were hard to resist, and so for the first time she stayed overnight in the Lin household, sharing a room with Lin Yu. The night passed without incident, and when morning sunlight spilled across Qian Renshue's delicate face, she stirred, frowning as she opened her eyes. Lin Yu was gone. Remembering his demands from the night before, her cheeks flamed. She muttered, half amused, half annoyed, "You little rascal, always bullying me." By coincidence, Lin Yu had just returned and heard her. Thick-skinned as he was, embarrassment didn't trouble him. He chuckled, which made Qian Renxue even more flustered. After a simple breakfast, the two bade Yu Ru farewell and went to a quiet wood on the outskirts of Heaven Do City. The forest lay only about 10 li from the city. It was so still that not even small wild creatures stirred. A few distant plumes of smoke marked far-off farms that relied on the city. No sooner had they entered the grove than the three who had been trailing them, Serpent Dragon, Sishui, and Ghost Leopard, stepped out into the open. "Greetings, young master." "Greetings, young lord," they called, snapping to attention. Once Lin Yu's identity was acknowledged, Serpent Dragon and Sishui straightened fully and addressed him formally alongside Ghost Leopard. Qian Renshue's face, however, carried a chill. "Do the three of you remember what happened last night?" she asked, her voice laced with anger. She had gone out in women's clothes, aiming for a pleasant, quiet evening. She didn't expect to be insulted. The memory of the toad leaping at her felt like filth. Had she not feared revealing her identity, Qian Renxue, already a level 68 spirit emperor, could easily have crushed Tai Long, that insolent little orangutan. Serpent Dragon and Si Shui exchanged glances. They could tell their young lord was angry and gave no sign of slackening. They immediately reported everything they knew about the Strength Clan. When Qian Renxue learned that the Strength Clan answered to the Clear Sky Sect, she frowned. If they're under the Clear Sky Sect, why didn't the sect eliminate them long ago? She asked. That's largely down to the High Priest, Ghost Leopard answered. Although the 4 single-attribute clans aren't weak, their hearts aren't united. They can't truly form an alliance, so they aren't much of a threat when acting together. Lin Yu's eyes flickered with thought. Qian Renxue was right to wonder, but the answer made sense. On the surface, the 4 single-attribute clans, strength, speed, defense, and breaking, seemed to get along, but beneath that facade, their loyalties were fractured. The Strength Clan remained foolishly loyal to Tang Hao. The Speed Clan had deep ties to the Clear Sky Sect. The Defense and Breaking clans hated the sect, especially Yang Wudi of the Yang family, who would turn hostile the moment he heard the name Tang. 4 clans, 3 different agendas. Actual unity was unlikely. Even if they did join forces, they would still be a manageable problem for the Hall of Worship's elders. Qian Renxue had never expected the 4 single-attribute clans to become the main power that would topple Spirit Hall in the original timeline, and neither had Lin Yu. But after offending Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, and after chancing into their path, their future looked grim. As for Tai Long, the little show-off, he had, by his own arrogance and strength, dragged those 4 clans to the brink. On the whole, Douluo Continent, that was a feat few could claim. Is that more impressive than me destroying the 7 kingdoms? Chapter 128, Sealing and Strong Control, 5-Colored Divine Light. The Lantern Festival in Heaven. Du City lasted only a day, but the aftermath lingered. For several more days, lantern vendors still lined the streets. The city's bustle, however, meant nothing to Tai Long, who was currently being scolded by his grandfather. Because of Tai Long, Lin Yu and Qian Renshue's secret plan to deal with the 4 single-attribute clans had been delayed. They refused to act until everything was settled. Lin Yu, however, had no intention of letting the Strength Clan in Heaven Do City live in peace. The Strength Clan was not weak. Besides Titan, a spirit Douluo, there were 4 spirit saints, Titan's brothers and clan elders. Even so, they dared not provoke the Heaven Do royal family. The royal family might lack a public titled Douluo, but they still had powerful spirit Douluo on whom the city relied. Empire Marshal Ji Long was one such figure, and the royal household likely hid other experts as well. A lone Strength Clan, cunning though it might be, was not enough to challenge them. At the urging of a certain crown prince, the incident of Tai Long, the Strength Clan's young lord, forcibly abducting a civilian girl had been brought before Shui Ye, the Heaven Do Emperor. The Lantern Festival was meant to be a day of celebration the royal family shared with the people. Nobles' reckless sons were expected to keep a low profile on such an occasion. Tai Long's behavior was the sort of provocation Shui Ye would not ignore, and Lin Yu had made sure the whole city knew about it. If the emperor didn't respond, it would be intolerable. Once the royal knights were ordered to arrest Tai Long, but found him thrown out of his clan compound by the Strength Clan, they immediately surrounded the clan. Titan flew into a rage and considered going to the imperial city to demand justice from Shui Ye, but he ultimately restrained himself. Years of experience serving the Clear Sky Sect had taught him how to read those in power. He knew Shui Ye was angry. To storm the palace in that mood would be courting disaster. As long as his clan remained under the emperor's roof, they had to bide their time. Surrounded by royal knights, the family adopted the out of sight, out of mind stance. 2 months later, the 4 clans' gathering would take place within the Star Luo Empire at the Breaking Clan, and Titan planned to scout out the possibility of relocating his family there. Having angered the Heaven Do royal family over his grandson, he had already decided they could no longer stay in Heaven Do City. He did not, however, consider whether the Strength Clan could realistically make such a move. Forcing the Strength Clan out of the city had long been part of Lin Yu and Qian Renshue's design. The Spirit Hall's power in Heaven Do City was limited, and the 7 treasure glazed tile school, Ningfengji in particular, was crafty. Before Lin Yu moved to intercept and break the Strength Clan, he spent the next 2 months upgrading the spirit rings of his shadow bird spirit. The 3rd spirit ring, condensing water flying Luan, was already close to 10,000 years and was the easiest to refine. Lin Yu spent 3 days at the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well and upgraded it to the 10,000-year level. The first 2 rings took over a month of cultivation and the harvesting of many rare treasures before they too reached the 10,000-year mark. In the end, all 5 of the Shadow Bird Spirit's rings attained the 10,000-year level. With the 5 rings ready, Lin Yu attempted another spirit ring fusion. After 10 days of intense practice, he finally managed to merge the 5 rings within a single breath. The 5 black rings fused together, and a faint red ring, distinct from the black, bloomed at their center. The spirit abilities Lin Yu had carefully stored within the rings were released and, after a moment of adjustment, formed a stable, balanced combination. Lin Yu gave a soft shout. A beam of light, 5 colors at once, white, cyan, black, scarlet, and yellow, shot up into the sky. Ghost Leopard, standing nearby, leapt up and intercepted it. Ghost Leopard's level 95 cultivation was no lie. After releasing his own spirit and activating his martial soul true body, partly because Lin Yu had asked him to, he met the 5-colored beam head-on. The light was extraordinary, and Ghost Leopard was knocked clean out of the sky. From roughly 20 meters up, he crashed back to the ground. He was shaken, but not mortally harmed. Still, Lin Yu worried less about physical injury and more about the light's other effects. Before Lin Yu could move, Ghost Leopard had already staggered to his feet, eyes wide with shock. "Young master, this spirit ability you forged yourself is outrageous," he said. Ghost Leopard described what he'd felt. When he blocked the beam, its force was roughly equivalent to the full-strength strike of a top-tier spirit saint, or perhaps a slightly weaker spirit Douluo. With his cultivation and martial soul true body, enduring that force was manageable. What he hadn't expected was the sudden loss of his spirit power, completely, lasting for a full 3 seconds. That powerlessness only lifted as he fell from the air. The implications were enormous. Even a spirit fusion ability could usually only bridge one major realm. Crossing 2 major realms was rare, and having an attack at that level was already impressive. But the 5-colored divine light did more. It temporarily sealed an opponent's spirit power. For a Spirit King's ability to silence a titled Douluo's spirit for 3 seconds was an outrageous advantage. On a battlefield, 3 seconds, or even a single instant, could decide life or death. As Lin Yu's strength grew, both the attack power and the sealing duration of the 5-colored divine light would improve. With this trump card, Lin Yu had earned the right to move more freely across the continent. He had already taken the first significant step toward joining the ranks of the powerful. Note, this is Lin Yu's own creation, not the legendary true 5-colored divine light. Used against beast spirits, it would likely be ineffective. Chapter 129, Annihilating the Strength Clan, Titan's Regret, Part 1. After successfully casting the 5-colored divine light, Lin Yu didn't leave right away. Under the covert protection of Ghost Leopard, he continued to hunt powerful spirit beasts in the Sunset Forest. At his current level, he could easily dominate ordinary 50,000-year spirit beasts. A spirit beast that could truly give him a good fight would need 70,000 years of cultivation, or be a rare specimen with an exceptional bloodline or talent, in which case even a 40 or 50,000 year creature required him to be cautious. Over those days in the forest, Lin Yu grew ever more proficient with the 5-colored divine light. He could now assemble and release it within 2 seconds. That might sound slow, but fusing 5 spirit rings and 5 spirit abilities as a spirit king was an enormous strain, and 2 seconds was the best he could manage then. Perhaps once his realm strengthened, the process would become easier. After several days, Lin Yu finally left the forest. Fighting every day had exhausted the clothes stored in his storage spirit tool. Dressed now in simple spirit beast hides, he attracted more than a few curious glances as he exited. He passed through Hunter Town, changed into better clothes, and set out for a wilderness area about 3,000 li from Heaven Do City. With Ghost Leopard, an agile, attack-oriented titled Douluo, riding with him, he reached the rendezvous in less than 2 hours. Someone had been waiting there for a long time, the pale, stunning beauty, Qian Renxue. The moment Lin Yu dismounted under Ghost Leopard's protection, she saw him. He hadn't seen her in 2 months and felt a rush of longing at the sight of her. Qian Renxue ran to him, and they embraced naturally. She rested her chin on his shoulder and murmured softly, "Where did you go? Why are you only getting back now?" "Am I late?" Lin Yu asked. No. Her answer was brief but warm. They fit together as if they'd always been meant to. After a moment of quiet, Qian Renxue briefed him. The Strength clan would pass through this area in half a day. Just then, a familiar face, Lin Yu didn't know well, appeared. Solace, skinny as a pole but wearing a flattering smile, respectfully reported to Qian Renxue. "Reporting, young lord. We've confirmed the situation. Besides Clan Chief Taitan, the Strength clan has Tai Nuo, Tai Long, and 2 Spirit Saint elders coming. Bai He of the Speed clan brought a large contingent, nearly half the Speed clan. The Defense clan has the fewest people," Solace added. "Old Rhino only brought his son and a few young geniuses at most." Solace was the Platinum Bishop of the Spirit Hall in Heaven Dew City. While he reported facts crisply, his eyes were also calculating. Someone in Solace's position wouldn't be naive enough to believe Lin Yu was merely the son of a marquis. He'd seen the intimacy between Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, the young lord whom everyone assumed had died, and his instincts, owned by years in the Spirit Hall, told him this handsome young man was a major connection and likely very powerful. If he handled this well, it might pave the way for Solace to rise to elder someday. His ambition was obvious, though he had the competence to back it up. Qian Renxue frowned at the news. "That's troublesome. The important people didn't all come together. Do we have to deal with the stragglers ourselves?" Lin Yu gently squeezed her hand and reassured her. "It's fine. If we take out the 3 clan chiefs, Taitan, Bai He, and Niu Gao, I trust Bishop Solace can handle the rest." Solace's gaze sharpened when he heard Lin Yu speak. Lin Yu, whose mental force had been strengthened by the autumn dew of the River of Oblivion, noticed the look and understood Solace's thoughts. Although Solace had appeared somewhat self-interested before, Lin Yu knew the man was a capable bishop who kept his distance from internal Spirit Hall factionalism. Qian Renxue nodded without hesitation. "Very well, Bishop Solace. Don't disappoint this young lord. If you fail, you won't deserve to remain a platinum bishop." Solace grew serious and bowed. "Rest assured, young lord, young master, this subordinate will annihilate the remnants of the Haodian sect." He immediately mobilized personnel from the Spirit Hall in Heaven Dew City and nearby branch halls to set up a strict blockade and prevent anyone from escaping. As for personally joining the assault, Solace was realistic. Of the 3 people accompanying Qian Renxue and Lin Yu, none was weaker than him. He delegated the fieldwork and hurried off to organize the blockade. Qian Renxue leaned lightly against Lin Yu. "I never noticed before, but Solace is quite capable. Xiao Wu, are you thinking of recruiting him to our side?" Lin Yu shook his head and smiled. "How could I? My father told me Solace is only a bishop of the Spirit Hall and not affiliated with any internal faction." He hadn't expected Solace, who'd seemed petty in the original timeline, to have stayed out of the Spirit Hall's internal struggles. What came later for Solace, Lin Yu didn't know. His role in the bigger picture wasn't that large. Qian Renxue accepted Lin Yu's answer and said no more. After all, Solace was only a spirit Douluo. As they waited, Bai He arrived, leading nearly 100 Speed Clan members from their tribal lands, following behind the Strength and Destruction clans in a grand convoy. Niu Gao, the Defense clan chief, couldn't help grumbling. "That old white bird always does this, brings half the Speed clan and sponges off the rest. Terrible habit." Taitan only chuckled. "It's nothing. The old bird isn't lacking for resources, and the Speed clan lives a hard life. The 4 single-attribute clans share the same spirit. We should look out for one another." Chapter 130. Exterminating the Strength Clan, Taitan's Bitter End, Part 2. Led by the Speed Clan, the caravan of carriages from the 3 single-attribute clans moved proudly along the Heaven Dew Empire's official road. Passing merchants gave them a wide berth. No matter how wealthy, life was precious, and nobody wanted to cross a powerful spirit master. Traveling swiftly, The convoy reached the ambush point Solace had prepared even earlier than Qian Renxue had expected. From a distant hillside, Qian Renshue's pretty eyes flashed with surprise. She murmured to Lin Yu beside her, "Xiao Yu, you were wrong. The bond between those single-attribute clans is really strong. So many people." "Sister Shuer, you're overthinking. I think the Speed clan is going broke. They're coming all the way to Star Luo to freeload off the Breaking clan." Lin Yu cut in before she could finish. Qian Renxue had been about to throw a little fit to show some temper, and the interruption stunned her. "Can that be? There's still a Spirit Master family with Spirit Dulo. They're at least a second-rate force." Lin Yu shrugged. He hadn't been aware either. Spirit Masters rarely lacked funds. Bodyguard work could be lucrative. But perhaps the Speed clan still clung to the arrogance of their Clear Sky Sect days, unwilling to humble themselves and lick their wounds like the others. As they spoke, the caravan led by the Speed clan rolled into Solace's trap. Solace, the Platinum Bishop, gave a single command: "Fire!" At his order, countless prepared rolling logs and boulders thundered down from the hills and smashed into the road ahead and behind the convoy. The roadway was suddenly blocked. The three clan chiefs, Taitan, Niu Gao, and Bai He, found their people corralled. The Strength and Defense clans had already shoved the Speed clan, weakest in both offense and defense, into the very center. Taitan, the Strength clan chief and the most imposing of them, shouted at the collapsing hillside as rocks fell around them. "Who dares? Come out and face me!" His roar carried spirit power. Even Lin Yu, watching from a distance, felt his ears ache. "How annoying! Uncle Bao, handle this." "Yes, young master," Solace answered. Ghost Leopard, Serpent Dragon, and Sishe obeyed and flew straight toward Taitan and the others. The three unleashed their spirits. 9 spirit rings, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, and 5 black, spun around each of them. The number of spirit rings was the clearest measure of a spirit master's strength. Taitan's face went dark. He gave a formal bow as the three descended, ready to speak, but Shishui, taciturn as ever, struck first. Ghost Leopard became a black phantom, and his phantom ghost claws raked down. The three clan chiefs were seasoned fighters. They were prepared and returned a measured counterattack. They lost the initial advantage, but they didn't fall at once. Taitan, slashed by Ghost Leopard, bellowed at the clans behind him, "Go! We'll hold them off!" His orders were heeded. The others began to retreat, but Taitan's son and grandson, Tai Nuo and Tai Long, cried out, "Father! Grandfather! Get out of here!" Taitan snapped, pushing on with spirit power that was already draining fast. Bloodied and on the verge of collapse, he watched as an elder from the Strength clan snatched Tai Nuo and Tai Long like chicks and fled toward the far side of the valley. They hadn't expected that Lin Yu, targeting the 3 single-attribute clans, had not only his bodyguards, but also secretly called in spirit hall experts from neighboring cities through Silis. Surrounded and rushed into the dense valley, the 3 clans had no time to mourn before a new crisis hit. Once the clans were trapped in the valley, Ghost Leopard, Serpent Dragon, and Sishui let loose without restraint. Even the formidable Taitan, hurled by Ghost Leopard's full-force assault, suddenly understood he'd been deceived. Horror and fury crossed his face. "You, a titled Dulo, lied to us." "Heh, only just noticed?" Ghost Leopard snarled. He had been holding back, but his patience snapped. He unleashed his 8th spirit skill. A vast, ghostly light, dense with spirit power, slashed through Taitan's body. The overpowering spirit force tore his flesh and spirit apart until his rings faded. Taitan, clan chief of the Strength clan, a master-level spirit duo, fell. Serpent Dragon and Sishui also finished. Baihe and Niu Gao without much trouble. Baihe was near useless. The one who cost them time was Niu Gao. His astonishing defense delayed the finish. Had it not been for Niu Gao's endurance, Serpent Dragon and Shishui might have been done even sooner. They did not bother with executions. After killing the 3 chiefs, the 3 bodyguards dumped the bodies in a random spot for the wild spirit beasts to devour. When they returned to report, Solace walked over at that moment. "Reporting, young master. As you ordered, they were driven into that barren mountain." Lin Yu nodded, casually. "Good. Nothing slipped through the net, right?" "Young master, don't worry. There are absolutely none," Solace assured him. "All right, then. Burn it." Solace paused, startled. "Young master, that seems a bit extreme." Lin Yu didn't answer. He waved the matter away, sacrificing a nameless stretch of foothills to remove one of the greatest potential aids to Tang San's cause was worth it. Even if a few spirit saints might have escaped, he could always find others to train. Chapter 131, Annihilating the Remnant Clans. Qian Renxue's Flaw. Fortunately, this was a wasteland. Aside from the merchants who used the main road, no one came here. The Inferno had swallowed a mountain range dozens of miles wide. Even most of the Speed Clan's members, who rode the flying spirit beasts called needle-tailed swifts, couldn't escape the blaze. Those who tried were crippled more by the choking smoke and searing heat than by the flames themselves. Only a handful of Spirit Emperor-level masters from the Speed Clan and 2 elders of the Strength Clan, who had flown Tai Nuo and Tai Long near the edge of the fire, made it through. Everyone else perished in the deadly crossing. They hadn't flown higher, partly to conserve spirit power, and partly because being targeted by a titled Douluo was a death sentence. Faced with certain death by a titled Douluo or a slim chance through the Inferno, they chose the latter. When the few survivors of the 3 single-attribute clans, led by the 2 spirit saint elders of the Strength Clan, clambered out on the other side, they felt as if they had been spat out of hell. The loss of so many clansmen and of the clan chief, who had sacrificed himself to stall 3 titled Douluo, weighed on them heavily. Grief did not change Lin Yu's mind. He had come with solace, the Platinum Bishop, and Qian Renxue at his side. They folded their wings and blocked the path of the Strength Clan survivors who'd barely escaped the blaze. Because neither Lin Yu nor Qian Renxue hid their spirit power, one of the Strength Clan elders noticed them at once. The old man's face was thick with flesh. He barked, cold and furious. "I am Tai Ba, an elder of the Strength Clan. Who are you? Speak your name." "You don't need to know my name," Lin Yu said. "Ask the young man next to you. If his wits aren't gone, he should remember me." Tai Long, standing beside Tai Ba, changed expression. Still raw from losing his grandfather and intending to teach Lin Yu a lesson, he froze when he saw Lin Yu and blurted, "You, what are you doing here?" Lin Yu had left a lasting impression on Tai Long during the Lantern Festival months ago, but Tai Long's gaze drifted involuntarily to the woman beside Lin Yu, Qian Renxue, whose quiet, aristocratic beauty stunned him. "What a beautiful woman," he muttered. Qian Renxue was indeed beautiful, but her heart already belonged to another. Lin Yu casually slipped his arm around her, pulling her in as if to make the point clear. Tai Long snapped out of his stupor. If this had been back in Heaven Do City, he would have thrown himself at them. But here, after the devastation, he understood Lin Yu's hostility. At the sight of Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, Tai Ba's expression hardened. Around them, the Spirit Hall contingent that had been monitoring the Inferno moved closer, their emblems unmistakable. Tai Ba shut his mouth and let out a long breath. He understood then what had happened. The 3 single-attribute clans had been annihilated. He never expected the disaster to have come because of his own clan's disgrace, because of his grandson's lust. He wanted to strangle Tai Long, but it did nothing to change the dead. Tai Ba's despair turned to fury, and his gaze fixed on Lin Yu and Qian Renxue. For his clan, he would give everything. All his spirit rings were amplifying his strength, save the 7th. He threw himself forward, great ape spirit surging as he shouted, "Brat, die!" Tai Ba had devoted himself entirely to raw power. He was not swift. Even a spirit ancestor could have dodged his blow. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue had no trouble avoiding him. Lin Yu wanted to use Tai Ba as practice, but Qian Renxue stepped between them. "Xiao Yu, let me deal with him. You handle the others," she said. Snow-white wings unfurled behind her, and 6 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black, glowed in the air. A faint, celestial image of a seraphim shimmered behind her. Tai Ba's eyes widened. "A seraphim? Qiandaliu, what is his connection to her?" he spat. Qian Renxue ignored his question, indifferent and distant. Only with Lin Yu would she drop that posture. To everyone else, she remained the proud little angel, young miss of Spirit Hall, able to look down on most of the world. Despite the spirit saint gap between them, her sacred attribute and mastery of extreme fire let her press the advantage. Sacred flames scorched Tai Ba as Qian Renxue attacked. Under the weight of her assault, he staggered, burned by fires far hotter than ordinary spirit flames. When she closed in, he grew fierce, refusing to cower. As her sword descended, he stubbornly met her, and Qian Renxue's spirit power longsword pierced his heart. Even dying, Taiba answered with a hideous smile, coughing blood. Qian family, go to hell! The force of the blow was all he had left. Qian Renxue hadn't expected such a death-grip counterattack. Serpent Dragon, the spirit that had tried to intervene, moved to block, but a cold streak of light flashed. Lin Yu's five-colored divine light had severed Taiba's fist at the wrist as he swung. A look of bitter despair crossed Taiba's face before his spirit faded. By the time Qian Renxue could fully register what had happened, Lin Yu had already dispatched his opponent with two quick moves. He slid up behind her, arms warm around her, and whispered into her ear with a teasing tone, "Sister Shuer, your combat skills have gotten a little rusty." Qian Renxue's cheeks flushed a soft pink. She had been undercover in the Heaven Dew Empire for nearly 10 years. While her cultivation had remained intact, her martial practice had grown rusty. Nestled in Lin Yu's embrace, enjoying the calm of being held, she pouted playfully. "That's true. Big sister has been busy. Little brother Yu will have to help me." Faced with the grown woman's coquettish demand, Lin Yu could hardly refuse. He answered her with a faint, indulgent smile. Chapter 132, The Clear Sky Sect Outpost, Moon Pavilion. After the clan chiefs and the leading figures of the Strength, Defense, and Agility clans had been eliminated, Solace, acting on orders from Lin Yu and Qian Renxue, quietly mobilized powerful men from cities far from the Spirit Hall. For the sake of the Spirit Hall, Solace could be pitiless. Within less than a year, the remaining members of the three single-attribute sects had vanished entirely. Because of the Spirit Hall's existence and the fact that those sects were not major powers, the forces of the Heaven Dew Empire barely noticed. Their destruction caused little commotion in the Spirit Master world. Although the Douluo Continent had been relatively peaceful lately, dark currents still ran beneath the surface. Spirit Douluo rarely died, but one or two would still fall every few years. The simultaneous disappearance of 3 was tragic, but not unheard of. Still, the event did not escape a certain old fox. Ning Fengji, sect master of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, the largest sect in the Heaven Dew Empire. Under his command were 2 Super Douluo, the Sword Douluo and the Bone Douluo, keeping watch. Though nearly 60 and technically a spirit saint, Ning Fengji practiced a youth-preserving art and looked like a man in his 30s. Holding an intelligence report sent by the school's merchant association, the normally polished, affable Ning Fengji wore an unusually grave expression. "Uncle Jian, what do you think?" Compared with Gu Rong, who was impulsive and hot-tempered, Ning Fengji preferred Sword Dulo Chen Xin's calmer approach. Chen Xin, listening, only shook his head. "It's hard to say. I don't understand either. Those 3 clans were closely tied to the Clear Sky sect back then. If anyone should have eliminated them, it would have been the Spirit Hall long ago. Them surviving until now is odd. I can't make sense of it." From Chen Xin's perspective, the 4 single-attribute sects, including the Breaking Clan, should have been wiped out by the Spirit Hall long ago. They shouldn't have lasted this long. After fruitless discussion, Ning Fengji fell silent, thoughts churning. Then an idea struck him. "Uncle Jan, come with me. We'll pay an old friend a visit." Led by the Sword Douluo, Ning Fengji arrived at the Moon Pavilion in Heaven Dew City, in the city's most prosperous yet unusually tranquil district. The Moon Pavilion itself was an imposing 5-story building by local standards, simple and elegant, with a single plaque, Moon Pavilion. Inside, a light, refreshing fragrance greeted them. Pleasant at first, the scent could grow cloying the longer one stayed. A screen carved from fine boxwood released a faint woody aroma. 2 3-meter-tall exotic orchids near the screen added a secluded floral note. Past the screen lay a spacious hall with 1-meter gray tiles and furnishings of various precious woods. Behind a wide front desk stood several young girls, simply dressed but refined. Wooden staircases flanked the desk. Beside each staircase was a chair. The people seated there were immediately familiar to Ning Fengji. "Qinghe, virtuous nephew Lin Yu, why are you here at the Moon Pavilion? Is something the matter?" Ning Fengji called. The newcomers were none other than Qian Renxue, disguised as Shui Qinghe and Lin Yu. Ning Fengji had always assumed Shui Qinghe, the crown prince already handling some of Shui Ye's official duties, was perpetually busy. Lin Yu was even more secretive. Hailed as the empire's top genius, he cultivated in private and kept to himself. Ning Fengji privately wished the young genius would vanish from the world, an old man's envy and fear. Chen Xin leaned over and quietly told Ning Fengji what he already suspected. Lin Yu had concealed his true realm with the power of the god of life. Ning Fengji's face went pale. He felt a prickle of fear and a twinge of regret that Gu Rong had acted too hastily. The situation had escalated beyond what he'd expected, and now he felt only resolve. Qian Renxue and Lin Yu were surprised to see Ning Fengji, but when they thought of Tang Yuhua's presence at the Moon Pavilion, they paid him little mind. Because of the incident with Gu Rong, Lin Yu had a poor opinion of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School and ignored Ning Fengji's arrival. Shui Qinghe stepped forward and bowed. Qinghe greets teacher. Brother Yu and I only came for KK. Teacher, did you come to the Moon Pavilion for Miss Rongrong? His words were polite and deft. Ning Fengji, sly as ever, merely shook his head. Qinghe, to be honest, Uncle Jan and I are here because of Rongrong. That girl is too noisy. I came to the Moon Pavilion looking for some peace. Their exchange seemed calm, but beneath the surface, each was feeling the other out. Only when a delicate little girl with pale yellow hair darted into Shui Qinghe's arms like a bird returning to its nest did Ning Fengji's suspicion ease a little. Imperial brother, did you and brother Yu come to see me? The girl asked. Shui Qinghe and Lin Yu exchanged a look, both faintly helpless. Damn, Shuya, they both thought. Heh, I heard little Princess Keike has been betrothed by His Majesty. In a few years, will she still remember an old woman like me? Teased a woman in a silver palace gown. She looked around 27 or 28, gentle and noble. The newcomer was Tang Yuhua, mistress of the Moon Pavilion and daughter of the former Clear Sky Sect master. The 10-year-old Keike flushed at the teasing and pouted. Madam, what are you saying? Lin Yu, sipping tea and feigning indifference, took note of Tang Yuhua. She possessed a domain, but was only level 9 in strength, not even a spirit master. That made her appear harmless, yet she wielded surprising influence within the Clear Sky Sect. Her survival and status in the sect, aside from care given by Tang Xiao, made it clear she was no simple noblewoman. The Moon Pavilion presented itself as a finishing school, but in truth it quietly controlled much of the Heaven Do Empire's nobility and functioned as an outpost for the Clear Sky Sect. Anyone who underestimated Tang Yuhua risked being consumed without even leaving a bone. Chapter 133. The Origin of Same Qi Shared Branch and Qian Renshue's plan to hold the Son of Heaven hostage. While Lin Yu watched Tang Yuhua, he realized she was sizing him up with recruitment in mind. The Clear Sky Sect, like the now-collapsed Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, was known for its arrogance and haughtiness, looking down on outsiders. Tang Yuhua, however, was an exception. She didn't share the stubborn insularity of the old guard. She kept a close eye on the prodigies emerging across the Heaven Do Empire, and Lin Yu was the brightest among them. It was only a pity that his whereabouts had been so mysterious that she could not recruit him. After teasing Shui Ke lightly, Tang Yuhua's gentle, watery eyes shifted to Lin Yu. She smiled and said, You must be the young master of Marquise Chengyang, the #1 talent among the younger generation of the Heaven Do Empire. I've admired you for a long time. A smiling face disarms resistance. Lin Yu, though aware of her status, couldn't answer curtly with no enmity between them. He kept a cool, distant air, nodded casually, and accepted it as a greeting. Shui Qinghe, who had shared glances and tacit understanding with Lin Yu, forced an apologetic smile and said to Tang Yuhua, Madam, I'm truly sorry. Lin Yu is like this by nature. Please be understanding. Haha, that's only natural. Geniuses are always a little different. Tang Yuhua's warm reaction gave Shui Qinghe an opening. He lowered his posture, offered a few more apologies, and then led Lin Yu and Shui Ke out of the Moon Pavilion. Once the three were outside, Tang Yuhua turned and spoke in a formal, cool tone. Schoolmaster Ning's presence truly graces my humble Moon Pavilion. The chill in her words made Ning Fengji wince. Yuhua, we're old acquaintances? Do you have to be so distant? I wouldn't presume. How could I, a simple woman, call myself an acquaintance of Schoolmaster Ning of the #1 sect? Tang Yuhua replied, her tone polite but frosty. Behind the civility lay hard feelings. The idea of the upper 3 sects, same Qi, shared branch, had been proposed after Tang Chen vanished, and the Clear Sky sect was weakened against Spirit Hall. At first, the Clear Sky, the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect united in apparent harmony. But when Spirit Hall attacked the Clear Sky sect, the other two held back. The moment the Clear Sky sect expelled the four single-attribute clans, a ruthless show of power, the would-be allies cooled. If the Clear Sky could cast out loyal allies so abruptly, what regard would they have for outsiders? Tang Yuehua harbored that grievance. Ning Fengji, though experienced and clever, was forced to be diplomatic. If not for the looming threat of Spirit Hall, he might never have stepped foot in the Moon Pavilion. After a round of mutual explanations and cordial coaxing, Tang Yuehua, whose cultivation was a shade less than Ning's, relented, and Ning Fengji followed her back inside. Even then, the Clear Sky sect could not hold the upper hand. Others still treated them warily. After leaving the Moon Pavilion, Shi Qinghe accompanied Lin Yu. Under Shui Ye's orders, they spent several days with the still young Zhui Ke until the boy's royal etiquette teacher arrived, and they finally gained their freedom. Just as Lin Yu breathed easier, Shui Qinghe, sitting beside him, grinned and said, "Little brother Yu, I never expected you'd be so good at coaxing girls to be happy. You opened my eyes." A thin, bitter note hung in the air. Lin Yu felt a chill. He knew that his young miss had probably become jealous again. Back in their secret chamber within the palace, Qian Renxue changed back into her female attire. She had been slightly displeased earlier, but her ire wasn't aimed at Lin Yu. It was aimed squarely at the old coot Shui Ye for playing matchmaker. In the original timeline, the little angel, almost no backing beyond 2 bodyguards, had to develop slowly and might have waited until nearly 30. But after receiving help from the Hall of Worship, she had been unable to wait. She surrendered herself, cuddled in Lin Yu's arms. Recently, Qian Renxue had been muttering about how she wanted to kill Shui Ye, but she was only venting, without holding at least half the real power in the Heaven Do Empire. Killing him would be a suicide move that would only see her sidelined. Lacking enough concrete power, she was frustrated. She envied Boss Cao, who in that famous story had held the Son of Heaven hostage to command the unruly nobles. If only Shui Ye were like the Emperor in that tale. The thought kept returning to Qian Renxue, growing until her eyes suddenly brightened. Why didn't I think of that before? Lin Yu, still comforting her and gently stroking her golden hair, looked indulgent. Sister Shuer, have you thought of something? Tell me. Qian Renxue curled into his arms, toyed with her hair like a kitten, and smiled. Her lips were soft and conspiratorial as she whispered her plan. Xiao Yu, don't you think Shui Ye's current presence blocks us? Lin Yu nodded, as the master of the Heaven Do Empire's divine artifact would certainly stand in the way of their plan to steal it. Qian Renxue's voice dropped to a whisper as she outlined the scheme. First, have their grandfather send a mental attribute spirit master, someone capable of controlling minds. Quietly eliminate and replace the trusted experts around Shui Ye, the Heaven Do Emperor, and then control the Emperor himself. With Shui Ye acting under their command, they would seize the real power that wasn't theirs. Those who opposed them, like Shui Xing, would be dealt with one by one. Chapter 134, 100,000-Year Spirit Ring. Xiao Wu dies with Lin Yu by her side. Qian Renxue was no longer the meek, easily manipulated little angel of the original timeline. Her heart no longer beat only to prove something to that woman. Her actions grew less cautious and far more imaginative and unrestrained. Qian Daoli was privately pleased when he received Qian Renxue's plans. He wasn't worried she'd waste time, only that she might exhaust herself on trifles. Still, her plan was new and imperfect. Some issues had to be uncovered and solved. Compared with Boss Cao's brazen methods, Qian Renxue's scheme had to be executed in secret, without raising anyone's suspicions. Half a year flew by. Qian Renxue, who had already reached Spirit Emperor at level 68, had been busier than ever, preparing to secure her freedom in the coming years. With Lin Yu's help, she steadily climbed to level 70, Spirit Saint, before she turned 19. At 18, she had already attained the rank of Spirit Saint. Even 10,000 years into the future, when the Spirit Master system had fully matured, she would still be counted as a prodigy. In Douluo Dalu 2, the three youngest spirit saints were all nearly 20. Having taken this final step, Qian Renxue was in high spirits and indulged Lin Yu more than usual. In the secret room, feeling the warmth of the curves pressed against her, her jade-like face flushed crimson. Slender, pale arms threaded around Lin Yu's waist, and her clear eyes softened into a vulnerable look. "Xiao Yu," she murmured, "you're learning to bully Sister Shuer." Lin Yu stroked Qian Renshue's golden hair and spoke lightly. "Sister Shuer, about your seventh spirit ring. Do you want to absorb it now or wait? That rabbit's been held by me for a while. I'm afraid it won't last much longer. I can go to the Stardew Great Forest to find a spirit beast if needed." Qian Renxue, who liked being pampered, closed her eyes in contentment at the gentle touch. Her cherry-red lips brushed Lin Yu's, and she said softly, "All right, it's only a soft-bones rabbit, not a rare spirit beast, but it is a 100,000-year creature. The seventh ring doesn't need anything special, just age. It's just that the soul impact from a 100,000-year beast." Lin Yu pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Don't worry, everything's ready. Also remember to let the senior your grandfather sent assist. That will make it safer." Qian Renxue nodded obediently. She'd grown used to letting Lin Yu decide such matters. When they left the secret room, they were back at Lin Yu's residence within Heaven Do Royal Academy. Outwardly, Lin Yu's cultivation was displayed as level 49 to outsiders, but in truth, he had long since reached level 57. He still couldn't graduate before the All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament in 5 years, so he remained at the academy. Thanks to a transformation that made Demon Bear an education committee member, Lin Yu's student residence had become his private home. Under his roof now lived Qian Renxue, a spirit Douluo from Spirit Hall with mental attribute, Ghost Leopard, Demon Bear, and a few others. The dungeon, already cramped, felt even smaller with everyone gathered there. Xiao Wu had grown a little and lay slumped atop a pile of carrot scraps, scowling malevolently. After fiercely biting down on a carrot, she threatened the group in a high, hysterical voice. "You scoundrels, let me go now. If you don't, Da Ming and Ming won't spare you." Qian Renxue, holding Lin Yu's hand, looked at the rabbit in mild puzzlement. The creature's arrogance seemed unshakable. Lin Yu shrugged noncommittally. "This rabbit's always been arrogant. We might as well finish this today." Lin Yu's casual remark scared Xiao Wu more than he'd expected. For a moment, fear flickered in her rabbit eyes, and she lost some of her bluster. "Don't come near me. I'm a 100,000-year spirit beast. You can't just take my spirit ring." Qian Renxue raised her hand with the indifferent air of someone who did not much care about this particular rabbit. In truth, she didn't. After all, the seventh spirit ring's martial soul true body is fixed. The only thing that improves with higher ring age is the soul's impact. "Senior Gao Yun, please handle this," she said. Gao Yun, gratified to be addressed as senior, hurried forward. He activated his spirit possession. An illusionary ape, slender and lithe, manifested behind him. Around the phantom circled 2 yellow rings, 2 purple rings, and 4 black rings. The illusion sea spirit ape was an extremely rare mental attribute spirit beast, physically frail, but with terrifying mental force, specializing in confusing foes. Because Xiao Wu was a 100,000-year creature, Gao Yun took no chances. He projected not only his martial soul true body, but also unleashed his 8th spirit skill, Lure of the Dream, using continuous mental suggestion to steer the rabbit's mind. Xiao Wu's mental force had been greatly weakened by her captivity. How could she resist? Under Gao Yun's influence, in less than the time of a breath, she murmured the word sacrifice. A pale pink light burst from her body and instantly enveloped Qian Renxue and herself. Lin Yu's lips curved in a faint smile. "Mission accomplished. It's just..." He glanced at the two entwined in the glow. A mother's spirit ring with a daughter's, truly a fated connection. Chapter 135, Stealing the Heavens and Changing the Moon, the Heaven Do Empire's Altered Sky. Though the sacrificial rite was safe from interference by anyone below divine rank, Lin Yu, Ghost Leopard, Demon Bear, and Gao Yun, who owed fealty to the Angel Clan, still insisted on guarding Qian Renxue. After a full hour, when the ritual ended, the pink light shield around Qian Renxue shattered. Another pair of sacred, snow-white wings, bristling with a divine aura, unfurled from her back. At Spirit Saint rank, the six-winged angel's soul normally shows only 4 wings. Only at the titled Douluo level do all 6 appear. Now 2 more wings beat gently, and 7 spirit rings, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, black, red, whirled around her as the Spirit Saint's pressure swept straight toward Lin Yu. Lin Yu blinked, a helpless smile flashing across his face. That Spirit Saint pressure had been aimed only at him, Qian Renxue's little prank to make him stumble and be embarrassed. Though she wasn't truly angry, pride and a streak of mischief had made her try to trip him up. To her surprise, the pressure didn't faze Lin Yu at all. Annoyed that her joke had failed, she tossed 2 items at him. Lin Yu caught them casually. In his left hand was a heavy, plump, soft-bones rabbit, about 20 caddies. In his right was a clear, faintly pink bone that looked like a human arm bone. Though rabbits were low on the Stardew Great Forest's food chain, as a 100,000-year spirit beast, Xiao Wu was guaranteed to drop a spirit bone. In the original timeline, that bone had housed top-tier spirit abilities, Paragon Golden Body and Teleportation, skills no ordinary rabbit ever possessed. Lin Yu examined the bone briefly, decided not to absorb it, and slid it into a special ink box for storing spirit bones. He tossed the rabbit carcass back into the dungeon and went upstairs with Qian Renxue. On the landing, Serpent Dragon and Shui, who had been waiting, rose at once and bowed. "Greetings, young lord, young master." Qian Renxue nodded. The gentle scholar Lin Yu knew at home became the authoritative young lord of Spirit Hall in front of her subordinates. "How did the investigation go? Are you sure the guards around Shuiye are rotating today?" "Yes, young lord. The 2 spirit duo assigned to protect Shuiye will be coming off shift today and will be exchanged with 2 spirit Douluo from the Heaven Do royal family's consecration hall. For safety, they will approach Shuiye's residence directly. Their arrival will coincide with the shift change. The Heaven Do royal family had poured decades of resources into cultivating spirit Douluo under the crown's control, but even with state effort, they had produced only 4 spirit Douluo, and those were among the weaker examples, roughly on par with Lin Yu's present level. 2 of the 4 were royal members who usually alternated guarding Shuiye, their shift schedule irregular and decided by the 2 royal Douluo. Serpent Dragon and Shui had spent 3 months tracking their patterns in order to take control quietly. The plan unfolded without hitch. Not long after the 2 spirit Douluo left the Northern Consecration Hall, their minds were seized by a psychic blow. Pressured by titled Douluo-level force from Serpent Dragon and Shui, they faltered, and Ghost Leopard, invisible and silent from 1,000 drills, struck and killed them instantly. As soon as the 2 were dealt with, Spirit Hall operatives rushed out, collected the bodies, and used a strange paste to disguise themselves as the deceased. After cleaning everything and ensuring no witnesses remained, Serpent Dragon ordered sharply, "From now on, if you can avoid using your spirit abilities, do not use them. Understood?" "Understood." The substitution was only the first move. Using the identity tokens of the slain guards, the 2 disguised operatives slipped through the palace almost unimpeded and reached the vicinity of Shuiye's sleeping quarters. The 2 spirit Douluo who normally guarded Shuiye were just emerging from hidden positions as the shift change proceeded, routine and careless from habit. The royal pair strode forward to verify talismans and leave. Less than 20 meters away, they sensed something amiss and paused. At that instant, Ghost Leopard struck. How could 2 low-level spirit Douluo, barely in the 81st rank and mentally unprepared, stand against the assassination of a 95th rank super Douluo? They felt a sudden pain in their necks, and nothing else. They were dead. Demon Bear, coordinating with Ghost Leopard, used his spirit power to seal the sleeping quarters, muffling all sound so Shuiye and his attendants inside would register nothing. Serpent Dragon and Shui, not powerful enough for direct confrontations with higher-ranked opponents, swept aside the dozen or so spirit emperors guarding the chamber, brutally overwhelming the weaker defenders. From beginning to end, the operation took less than 3 breaths. By the time Qian Renxue and Lin Yu arrived, the half-year plan had been executed in under 15 minutes. Qian Renxue stared at the disguises with genuine admiration. "Xiao Yu, this is astonishing. If you don't look at the spirit aura, you really can't tell the difference." "It's just a mask. It isn't that valuable. Lin Yu said. Having studied science and mathematics, he found manufacturing realistic masks with adhesive straightforward. Qian Renxue rolled her eyes in exasperation. I always feel useless around you. Sister Shuer, that's just self-awareness, Lin Yu teased, grinning. Qian Renxue was about to explode with annoyance. Lin Yu waved toward the palace and put on a more serious expression. Business first. Senior Gao Yun, please. Gao Yun, trailing a few paces behind, watched the two bicker and felt helpless. The son-in-law and the young miss, he couldn't help worrying about them. Inside his bedchamber, Shuye still slept, utterly unaware that from this day on, he would no longer be himself. The sky above the Heaven Do Empire had changed. Chapter 136, Spirit Core Condensation, an invitation from Ningfengji. The plan to change the times had been carried out with such secrecy that not even Shui Xing, who shared a mother with Shuye, noticed anything amiss. The only visible difference over the quiet year was that Shuye had grown to favor Shui Qinghe more and more. Shui Qinghe had already been installed as crown prince, and gradually many of the Heaven Do Empire's important powers were handed over to him, the most critical being control of the finances. Shui Xing, loyal to the royal family but notoriously corrupt, suddenly felt the squeeze. As a prince long pampered by imperial favor, he had lived off the empire for years. In the past, no one dared challenge him because of his connection to Shui Ye. Now, with Shui Qinghe managing the treasury, Shui Xing's life had become difficult. After some of his holdings were reclaimed, his once ostentatious estate lost some of its lavish decorations and looked dimmer. Humph, that brat Shui Qinghe, Shui Xing snarled. Even imperial brother never questioned my expenses. Now he's crown prince. Who does he think he is to scrutinize me? Prince Shui Xing rattled with fury, while his adopted son Shui Qingliu stood before him trembling and not daring to speak. Shui Xing merely vented. There was little he could do against the crown prince in these peaceful times. The imperial allowance had been a major source of his wealth, but it wasn't his only source. Just as the letter Lin Yu had once intercepted showed, Shui Xing had other means of making money. If the imperial allocations were cut, he would find other ways to recoup his losses. Meanwhile, Lin Yu, cultivating in a secret chamber in the Eastern Palace, faced a different challenge. According to Chandalu, in this era, spirit masters who condensed a spirit core were generally at rank 95 or higher. Only by forming a spirit core could one qualify to continue along the path of a true spirit master. Aware of how the Douluo Continent's eras differed, Lin Yu wanted to see if he could condense a spirit core even before he became a spirit saint or a titled Douluo. By this year, Lin Yu had reached rank 59, the threshold before breaking through to Spirit Emperor, and yet he was only 16. Most people at his level still strove to become spirit elders. His rapid advancement was exceptional. Lately, aside from the time he spent close to Qian Renxue, his mind had been consumed by how to construct a spirit core. The most detailed descriptions he had found were from the era of Huo Yu Hao 10,000 years in the future. Huo Yu Hao's method suggested that, in essence, one condensed mental forces into the first spirit core. Lin Yu had tried that route for 3 months, using his mental force to open the first spirit core, but every attempt failed. After so many failures, he forced himself to calm down. Strange. Which step is wrong? He wondered. As he sat deep in thought, a pair of soft, fair arms slid around his waist from behind, and a warm body pressed against him, breaking his concentration. Lin Yu welcomed the closeness and leaned his cheek against the soft skin. Qian Renxue's gentle eyes held a hint of affection. You still haven't succeeded? She asked softly. Xiao Yu, why not try another approach? If it really won't work now, you can wait until your rank is higher. Qian Renxue herself knew about condensing spirit cores. With the help of the 2 remaining drops of autumn dew from the River of Oblivion that Lin Yu had given her, she had easily condensed a mental force spirit core. After that, her cultivation didn't surge dramatically, but her spirit power became steadier and recovered more quickly. She had reached rank 74 as a spirit saint. Seeing Lin Yu so downcast, she reached out comfortingly, and Lin Yu, feeling encouraged, kissed her. Qian Renxue blinked in surprise, but sensing his renewed spirit, closed her eyes and accepted his affection. A few days later, prompted by her remark, Lin Yu decided to try a different method. condensing a spirit core through qi and blood instead of mental force. In theory, spirit power, mental force, or qi and blood could all be formed into a spirit core. The approaches had similarities to the methods of condensing essence, qi, and spirit recorded in Taoist classics from Lin Yu's previous life. Owning the wood spirit scroll, which aligned with life force, Lin Yu had an advantage. His qi and blood were naturally exceptional. Over the past few days, the wood spirit qi emitted by the scroll had been converted into his own qi and blood. By continuously refining this converted qi and blood, Lin Yu finally condensed a qi and blood spirit core, a form that was normally considered more difficult than a mental force core. No longer did he suppress his spirit power. In a single breath, he surged forward and broke through to rank 60. He now needed only one spirit ring to reach Spirit Emperor. Elated, Lin Yu prepared to go to the Heaven Do Imperial City to find Qian Renxue, but he was stopped at the palace gate by an emissary. The man wore a silver emblem shaped like a 7-storied pagoda, unmistakably from the 7-treasure glazed tile school. With a courteous smile, the old man bowed and said, "Greetings, young Marcus Lin. Our little miss has turned 10. The sect master is delighted and has arranged a banquet for her birthday to be held in 10 days. This is the invitation. We sincerely hope young Marcus will attend." He handed Lin Yu a gilded invitation. Lin Yu accepted it reluctantly, a hint of suspicion stirring in him about what Ning Fengji might be plotting. Ning Rongrong's birthday banquet, the mischievous little girl was already 10. Lin Yu felt a weight in his chest as he thought, Ning Rongrong's birthday party is probably more than it seems. Those who attend rarely come with benevolent intentions. Chapter 137, The Vicious Plot, Targeting Lin Yu, the Yin-Yang Chaos Bird. Although Lin Yu had a bad feeling about the 7-treasure glazed tile school's invitation, he still accepted. Ning Fengji was nominally Shui Qinghei's mentor, and as a guest and student he could not refuse such an occasion. Qian Renshue's disguises had always been flawless, and for years no one had suspected anything. But with the appearance of someone from outside the original timeline, everything had become uncertain. A fox like Ning Fengji had to be watched closely. If he ever picked up a clue, Qian Renxue and he would have no choice but to fight to the death. For safety's sake, Lin Yu planned to accompany Qian Renxue to the 7-treasure school's treacherous Hongmen banquet only after he returned from hunting his next spirit ring. Shortly after Lin Yu accepted the invitation, Ning Fengji happened to be in the Sectmaster Hall on 7-Treasure Mountain drinking tea with Chen Xin and Gu Rong when the news reached them. When he confirmed that Lin Yu would be attending, a faint smile flitted across Ning Fengji's deep eyes. "It seems this young Lin is not completely indifferent," Ning Fengji murmured. "What a pity we offended him so badly before. Now that he's about to reach Spirit King, we can no longer afford to keep him alive." A flash of sorrow crossed the usually refined and amiable Ning Fengji's face. Crocodile tears, nothing more. "Humph, I said long ago that kid should be killed. If it weren't for him, Dugu Bo wouldn't have attacked us twice." Gu Rong, vicious and aggressive by nature, spat the remark. Ning Fengji dabbed at his eyes, shook his head, and replied smoothly, "Uncle Gu, you're mistaken. Shui Qinghei wants him dead. We only extend the invitation." When dealing with others, Ning Fengji always found ways to distance himself whenever any risk threatened to touch him. Shui Qinghei had instigated the plot, using Ning Rongrong's birthday banquet as cover to try to assassinate Lin Yu, but the actual operatives would be from the 7-Treasure glazed tile school. The aim was obvious. Shui Qinghei also wanted plausible deniability. Ning Fengji, however, thought on a larger scale. Regardless of Lin Yu's fate, he would remove any obstacle to his students' rise to power. In his calculation, only with Shui Qinghei at the helm could the 7-Treasure glazed tile school reap the greatest gains. It was a risky long game. Hoarding advantages and waiting for the perfect moment could bring great reward and great peril. While the schemers of Heaven Do City plotted to eliminate Empire's foremost prodigy, Lin Yu, under Ghost Leopard's lead, set out to hunt a new spirit ring. "My 5th spirit ring was already over 50,000 years, Lin Yu said. "This 6th one will be harder. I hope I can find 100,000-year spirit beast." The era posed a headache. Because of a certain enormous charging treasure, Any 100,000-year spirit beast that hadn't broken through in the last 1,000 years tended not to linger in the Stardew Great Forest. The most powerful spirit and vicious beasts had gathered near the Lake of Life, slumbering and drawing heaven and earth origin chi from that treasure. Ghost Leopard hesitated, then said, "Young master, Spirit Hall keeps records of 100,000-year spirit beasts. Over the millennia, they've become scarce. Every time one's found, any faction with the strength to hunt it will move to seize it." However, he added, pride shining in his eyes, Spirit Hall's heritage is deep. Over the years, most of those 100,000-year spirit beasts were taken by us. "Old Ghost, stop showing off," Demon Bear rumbled, pouring cold water over Ghost Leopard's pride. "You should be thinking about how hard it'll be to find an avian 100,000-year spirit beast for the young master's 6th ring." Ghost Leopard's boast was nothing against the reality. 100,000-year spirit beasts were extremely rare on the Douluo Continent, and all capable factions raced to claim them. Finding one for Lin Yu would not be easy. Lin Yu asked, hopeful, "Does Spirit Hall have records of where these beasts appeared in the past?" "Some," Ghost Leopard answered. "Most sightings were in the Stardew Great Forest. There's also a massive group reported far to the north, mostly ice jade scorpions above 10,000 years, so there could be 100,000-year ones among them. There have been a few in the lava valley of the Starluo Empire too. But those records are decades old. Apart from that northern scorpion group, which no one dares touch, the rest have been hunted down over the years by elders or the Supreme Pontiff. It wasn't much, but it was one of the few confidential entries Ghost Leopard could pull." After a pause, Demon Bear clapped Lin Yu on the shoulder, making him look up in surprise. "Uncle Xiong, what's wrong?" Lin Yu asked. "I was only 6 back then," Demon Bear said, "but I remember the elders talking about a strange bird, half black, half white, in the dawn and dusk forest, less than 100 miles from our village. My parents used to scare me with it, tell me disobedient children would be eaten by that bird." It was an old, vivid childhood memory. The strange bird Demon Bear recalled might well be the legendary yin-yang chaos bird. Its attributes were unique and extraordinarily rare. In fact, only a single yin-yang chaos bird existed on Douluo Star. Its strength shouldn't be utterly overwhelming, perhaps comparable to a super Douluo above level 95, but its cultivation and current whereabouts were unknown. The big question was whether it still nested in the dawn and dusk forest after all these years. After considering the possibilities, Lin Yu decided to check Demon Bear's hometown in the dawn and dusk forest first. If the yin-yang chaos bird was still there, he would observe it and see whether Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard could handle it. If not, he would immediately summon reinforcements. Chapter 138, Hidden Star Crown, Difficulty of the Heavenly Tribulation. The dawn and dusk forest lay in the northeast of the Starluo Empire, bordering the Heaven Do Empire. Only a third the size of the Sunset Forest, it was hardly famous. What made it notable were its spirit beasts. Most of them appeared in black and white, or were dominated by those two colors. With the Demon Bear as their guide, Lin Yu and his companions traveled without stopping for 2 days before reaching the forest. According to the Demon Bear, the beasts here were neither exceptionally powerful nor weak. The forest was full of unusually talented creatures. Many began at the century level, and there were plenty with 1,000 and 10,000-year cultivations. Century-level beasts tended to appear in packs. For that reason, low-rank spirit masters from the Starluo Empire rarely hunted here unless they had no other choice. Those seeking millennium or 10,000-year spirit rings, intermediate and high-rank spirit masters, were fewer and usually preferred the more diverse Stardew Great Forest. They seldom came to a place with such a narrow species range. Protected by the Demon Bear and the Ghost Leopard, both titled Douluo, Lin Yu could travel openly over the treetops. When the 10,000-year spirit beasts with consciousness spotted the 3 of them in the air, their eyes filled with unease. They growled low, but did not attack. Just as the Demon Bear had warned, the dawn and dusk forest was strange. Despite the abundance of talented spirit beasts, not a single 100,000-year spirit beast had ever been recorded here. The anomaly had drawn Spirit Hall researchers who set up long-term studies, but after years of investigation, they found nothing and gave up. As night fell, the trio found a flat patch of ground beside a river and set up camp. They roasted 2 soft-bone rabbits and made a pot of creamy white fish porridge. Lin Yu decided that if he couldn't find the yin-yang chouse bird within 5 days, he would return to Heaven Do City. He would leave the hunt for a 100,000-year beast to his nominal grandfather, Qian Douluo. Far away in Spirit City, Qian Douluo, the high priest Qian, happened to be praying in the hall of worship when he sneezed several times. He straightened his robes and muttered with a slightly ruined, dignified air, "It isn't Shuer. It must be that brat talking behind my back." Knowing exactly what had caused it, he didn't mind. If Lin Yu planned to marry his granddaughter, he'd come to Spirit City sooner or later. Then he could settle the score the old-fashioned way, instruct him as an elder. After smoothing his expression, Qian Daoliu inexplicably smiled. The golden crocodile, who had just returned from chasing the 1,000 Jin demon subduer brothers, shivered at the sight. Back at the riverside, Lin Yu, the demon bear, and the ghost leopard were finishing their meal when the ghost leopard's keen senses tightened and he shouted coldly toward the trees, "Come out! Stop skulking there, hiding your head and tail." Lin Yu's expression hardened and he readied himself to fight. Though the demon bear and ghost leopard were powerful enough that no force outside the spirit hall could easily stop them, Lin Yu remained on guard. A soft, apologetic female voice answered from the darkness. "Wait, don't misunderstand." A woman stepped out, a graceful, middle-aged beauty in a white robe scattered with golden star-like decorations. 2 youths, a boy and a girl about Lin Yu's age, followed her. Their attire matched hers. The woman moved with the composure of a senior expert. The 2 young ones looked curious and a little surprised as they measured Lin Yu up. "Are you people from the Star Crown sect?" the demon bear asked. The woman inclined her head. "Yes. I didn't expect anyone besides the Star Luo imperial family's Dai household and the Spirit Hall to know of us. I'm Shu Qingyu, sister sect master of the Star Crown sect. I'm a rank 93 titled Douluo, Xingyan." The demon bear and the ghost leopard also gave their titles. All 3 were titled Douluo, so there was no point hiding it. With names exchanged, Lin Yu learned the identities of the 2 youngsters, Shu Xingtong and Shu Nuonuo, children of the current sect master of the Star Crown sect. 17 years old and already rank 40, they were here to hunt their 4th spirit ring. The Star Crown sect seemed one of the few strong sects that maintained decent relations with the Spirit Hall. The riverside camp became livelier with the aunt and her nieces and nephew, though everyone remained cautious. This was, after all, an outdoor spirit beast forest. The Star Crown presence brought Lin Yu useful news. South of the Dawn and Dusk Forest lay a valley whose inhabitants were almost exclusively black spirit beasts, similar in appearance to those in the forest. Their cultivation levels were much higher. The few beasts Shu Qingyu had glimpsed were mostly above 50,000 years. Shu Nuonuo's delicate face turned serious. "Although the 2 excellencies beside you, elder brother Lin Yu, are very powerful, you must be careful." A clap of thunder split the star-studded sky so sharply that Shu Nuonuo's warning broke off into a frightened cry. Her face drained of color. The 3 titled Douluo tensed and their gazes snapped toward the direction of the thunder. In a strange valley to the south, atop a colossal tree nearly 200 meters tall, a giant bird sat on a branch. The trunk of the tree was so thick that 50 or 60 people could not wrap their arms around it. The bird was black and white, its eyes a pale gold. It stood 15 or 16 meters high. It looked up at the clear sky with a complicated expression and spoke in human words. What a pity. If I hadn't acted so rashly back then, I wouldn't have fallen to this. Only a 100,000-year spirit beast could speak human language. Lin Yu would have recognized the bird instantly. This had to be the yin-yang chouse bird he'd come for, but it was very much in trouble. The sudden clap of thunder had been aimed straight at it, the start of a tribulation, a catastrophe no 100,000-year spirit beast could avoid. And yet the bird's true age was far older than a mere 100,000 years. Chapter 139, The Million-Year Heavenly Tribulation, About to Fall. A clap of thunder from a clear sky instantly drew the attention of most spirit beasts and spirit masters nearby. Spirit masters who had not taken a legacy paid it little mind, But every one of those who had a legacy turned toward the sound, their hearts suddenly aflame. The tribulation of a beast king, thunder from a clear sky, left no doubt 100,000-year spirit beast was about to undergo tribulation. Those hunting near the dawn and dusk forest all wanted to notify their factions, but after a moment's thought, they gave up. Human cities were usually far from the spirit forests. By the time reinforcements arrived, the Beast King, having recovered from the weakness of the tribulation, would easily crush them. People were driven by profit. At 50%, they took risks. At 100%, they broke laws. At 300%, they committed crimes without regard for hanging. Even if they couldn't use the spirit ring, just 100,000-year spirit beast's spirit bone could transform someone into a true powerhouse. Scattered spirit masters near the dawn and dusk forest quickly rushed toward the southern valley. Lin Yu, the ghost leopard, the demonic bear, and the star-crowned sect duo, Shu Qingyu with her twin juniors, Shu Xingtong and Shu Nuonuo, who had been planning to rest by the river, also headed for the valley. Except for Lin Yu and the star-crowned sect siblings, the others were all titled Douluo, so they moved fast and soon reached the valley's mouth. Shu Qingyu tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and smiled. This is the southern part of the Dawn and Dusk Forest, South Misty Valley. There's also North Dusk Lake to the north, rich with water and grass, a border area between two countries. But South Misty Valley is dangerous. The elders warned me there's something terrifying inside. I never expected 100,000-year spirit beast to be breaking through its tribulation here. The name 100,000-year spirit beast changed the atmosphere immediately. It was a sensitive term. Tensions between factions tightened in an instant. The demonic bear and the ghost leopard were far stronger than Shu Qingyu, so Lin Yu wasn't worried for his own safety, but Shu Qingyu's expression soured. After finally discovering a 100,000-year spirit beast, of all times to run into people from the spirit hall, this was bad. The Star-Crowned sect was strong, stronger than the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School and even comparable to the Clear Sky sect, but it was no match for the Spirit Hall. Offending the Spirit Hall over a spirit bone whose spirit ring was useless and risking the sect's stability was hardly worth it. With Shu Xingtong and Shu Nuonuo at her side, she didn't dare to provoke the ghost leopard and demonic bear. Under the intimidating gazes of the two-titled Douluo, Shu Qingyu sighed softly. It's only a spirit bone. I'll give it up. Isn't that enough? The demonic bear and the ghost leopard shook their heads, which annoyed her further. What else do you want? I said I won't compete. Isn't that enough? Seeing the standstill, Lin Yu stepped forward to mediate. Star Evolution, Your Excellency, hear me out. Shu Qingyu, though irritated, hadn't lost her reason. Having 2 titled Douluo as guards, she knew Lin Yu's status in the Spirit Hall wasn't low, perhaps a saint or something like that. Fine, what do you want me to do? It's simple. You and the 2 young ones swear by your spirits not to reveal anything you've seen here for 3 days. Shu Qingyu gave Lin Yu a loaded look, but agreed, pursing her red lips. All right, I swear. After the 3 from the Star-Crowned sect swore, they quietly left. Lin Yu, the ghost leopard, and the demonic bear stayed outside South Misty Valley, waiting silently for the spirit beast inside to finish its tribulation. The initially clear, starry sky began to darken. Blood-red lightning, as thick as water buckets, slammed into the depths of the valley. The sight was terrifying. Even the thick-skinned demonic bear muttered, "This lightning is frightening. My 9th spirit ability would be nothing against it. If it struck me, I might survive 1 hit. Old leopard, you. 1 strike would take my life," the ghost leopard finished grimly. Reluctant though they were to admit it, the statement was true. Those blood-red bolts were on par with their 9th spirit ability. Lin Yu's expression grew serious. Even a 100,000-year defensive spirit beast couldn't withstand so many red bolts that were a few levels stronger than a titled Douluo's 9th spirit ability. And the beast inside had already taken 40 or 50 strikes, a horrifying number. Lin Yu was already thinking of retreating when the lightning changed again. The blood-red flashes began to streak with gold, a mysterious power adhering to them. In a few breaths, the red light had transformed into golden lightning, falling like chained spears. The golden bolt struck down, and from the valley a vast black and white bird soared skyward to meet them. "Ha, dragon god, you are ruthless. This million-year tribulation, you truly intend to wipe the spirit beast race out," a bold voice rang, threaded with indignation. Lin Yu finally made out the bird, the yin-yang chaos bird. It was different from the ones he'd heard of on Douluo Continent. This one's cultivation was far higher. The chaos bird fought the golden lightning, but was at a continual disadvantage. The ghost leopard, still in shock, asked, "Young master, if this bird survives the million-year tribulation, won't it become a god?" Lin Yu muttered to himself, "Even knowing there's no hope, it still wants to try." The golden lightning kept pouring down. No matter how powerful the yin-yang chaos bird was, its divine ability could not match the heavenly Tao. Compared to the whole Douluo world, even if it were only a hair's breadth from being a million-year spirit beast, from returning to the divine beast ranks, it was still far too weak. Without undergoing the tribulation, it was still not a million-year spirit beast. Chapter 140. Overestimating one's own abilities in possession. Endless golden lightning poured down onto the yin-yang chaos bird like a waterfall. Once a divine beast, it could not withstand an attack that had reached the divinity level. A sharp, mournful screech echoed through the dawn and dusk forest. Countless spirit beasts fell prostrate, crying out as if mourning their fallen god. In the Star-Do Great Forest, in a small secluded pocket at the core of Douluo Star, a pair of vertical pupils opened. Clear purple eyes reflected a complex emotion. "Even you are gone," the thought trembled in that gaze. In the god realm, the god of evil's features tightened. "Even it is gone. The balance that only steadied these past few years has been broken. I expect it won't be long before Douluo Star, alas. With the god position filled, our hands are tied. Without it, we still can't fix this," the god of kindness said softly, worry creasing her brow. The god of evil waved a hand, dismissing the scene of the yin-yang chaos bird enduring the heavenly tribulation. "Why worry? Once we leave the god realm, someone else will handle it." No sooner had he spoken than the image ended. After enduring the golden lightning for the length of a cup of tea, the yin-yang chaos bird disintegrated into ash. Its remaining power condensed into a mass of golden light and a strand of unusual black and white energy. The lightning in the sky vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. If not for the shattered rocks and scorch marks scattered through South Misty Valley, it could have seemed like nothing had happened at all. "It's over. No spirit ring, but seeing a mighty being fight the heavens was worth the trip," Ghost Leopard said beside Lin Yu, sighing in admiration. Demon Bear, who only wanted excitement, nodded eagerly. Lin Yu remained silent. He was the one who needed a spirit ring, after all. As Lin Yu stared at the floating golden light, more fighting noises erupted. Over 20 spirit masters, from spirit ancestor to spirit king, drawn from all over the dawn and dusk forest, had rushed into South Misty Valley. No sooner had they arrived than all hell broke loose. They began slaughtering one another before they could even attempt to grab the two strange objects in the sky. The spirit beasts in the valley had also turned on each other. A giant black and white bear, an enormous beast with 90,000 years of cultivation, and two massive pythons, one black and one white, clashed. Their strength was formidable. Even Demon Bear would struggle to defeat that bear quickly. Every human and beast there understood those objects in the sky were treasures. Demon Bear hesitated. "Young master, should we move in?" Lin Yu's eyes flicked with decision. "Uncle Xiong, you take the three beasts and hold them." Demon Bear joined the fray against the bear and the two pythons. Lin Yu spread his wings, which shimmered with a 5-colored halo, and shot forward with startling speed toward the golden light and the black and white strand. The three spirit beasts, interrupted by Lin Yu's approach, turned and charged straight at him. Demon Bear intercepted them just in time. Those 20 or so human spirit masters, already salivating over the divine relics, grew impatient. Two of them, riding flying spirits, aimed straight for Lin Yu. "Brat, stop right there!" they shouted. Both were only spirit ancestors, blinded by greed, and foolish enough not to retreat when they saw Demon Bear. Lin Yu's temper flared. 6 black spirit rings appeared around him as he prepared to strike. With a casual point, 2 crimson beams shot from him, slamming into the two men nearly 100 meters away. Their life forces were pierced. As they tumbled downward, their bodies burst into flames and were reduced to ash before they hit the ground. The instant Lin Yu unleashed his first spirit ability, the golden light mass surged like a living thing into his sea of consciousness. Even Ghost Leopard, renowned for his speed and alertness, hadn't time to react. "Young master," he cried. Lin Yu staggered as the golden mass invaded him. Dizziness and unconsciousness robbed him of control. The spirit wings behind him dissipated. Ghost Leopard lunged, catching Lin Yu mid-fall, panic in his eyes. "Old Bear, let's go!" he barked at Demon Bear, who was still blocking the three beasts. Demon Bear split his attention and, seeing Ghost Leopard clutching Lin Yu, understood at once that something had gone very wrong. He unleashed his sixth spirit ability to create an opening, then fled with Ghost Leopard, taking advantage of the disruption among the opponents. Before they left, Demon Bear grabbed the strange black and white strand of energy and carried it away with them. From a short distance, Shu Qingyu and the Shu family siblings watched the whole scene in stunned dismay. Shock and regret shadowed their faces. Shu Nuonua whispered, "Aunt, do you know what'll happen to that person from Spirit Hall?" They had no answer. Lin Yu, held by Ghost Leopard and borne toward Spirit City, had already sunk into his sea of consciousness. The golden mass inside him metamorphosed into a young man with an arrogant, domineering expression. A flash of greed lit his fierce eyes. "This is perfect, an ultimate five elements body, a spirit that controls the five elements. I'm Ming, and I never thought I'd survive that disaster, only to be blessed with such fortune," the figure crowed. Lin Yu's consciousness hardened at the sight of the intruder. He knew instantly this was the one who'd snuck into him. He didn't hesitate. Summoning the divinity force left from his god test, he counterattacked directly. "Humph, trying to possess me? Let's see if you have the nerve," Ming taunted, but the life-infused divinity force, an emerald green radiance Lin Yu felt oddly familiar with, hit him like a blade. Ming's face twisted. "Damn it, you actually— ah!" A miserable scream cut off as the condensed figure of Ming was incinerated by emerald green life flames birthed from Lin Yu's divine force. Where Ming's form had been, only a streak of golden light remained, drifting silently. Lin Yu's consciousness, breathing hard from the struggle, reached out and touched that last streak of gold.